actually, this lecture is based on a small part of my book that is called Brainwashed, and it was just published, and is now translated in different languages. So if you don't speak English, it can be in your language. I have no conflict of interest, obviously. And the lecture today is brainwashed by marketing. And what does that mean? We're aging, and that's very traumatic. And then that's the light of hope. And hope makes us vulnerable to brainwashing because we want, and we want to have something. We want to change our lives. And there is a lot of marketing that is published in scientific journals. So when the name of the machine is mentioned in the article, you would know that this article has been paid off. Now, let's talk about collagen, because everybody is enthralled and fascinated and completely taken by this concept of collagen. Well, collagen is about 25,000 genes in the human body, and they're creating about 100,000 proteins. And collagen is just one of them. There are about 7 types of collagen in the human skin. And there is about 8,987 proteins in the outer epidermis and about 9,140 proteins in the inner epidermis. So all of this, that's not the most important thing about this, is that these proteins must interact and they must be balanced with each other. Otherwise, nothing really happens. So just having more collagen is not enough. It's a proteostasis that we call it, a balance between the interactions of different proteins, and that is going to create anti-aging. That is going to create youth. Now, the laser and RF research, and I'm sure you love an RF lasers, so I'm here to reveal the other side of things, is that they have there's a basic experimental flow. And what is the experimental flow? Is they're looking at biopsies only at the time, at the point that they have lasered or they've done the radio frequency, but they're not looking at another side of the body to see if the collagen from the other side of the body has actually shifted to the side that has been lasered, and that's why you have more collagen. In other words, that the collagen is exactly the same, but it's just concentrated as a result of the trauma. And this is the marketing. You have all of these 16, 17-year-old girls or 20 years old and that never had the procedure, and then you have the reality of what the machine will do. And cryolysis, they've done a lot of research on cryolysis, and they have published books about how amazing it is, but in fact, you don't see that much in a lot of cases. Now, the importance of statistical significance, that is very important when you read an article to understand what is statistical significance. And what it is the 0.05 means that it's 5% of the people that did not get the effect. 95% got it, but 5% did not get it. And you're always going to find a small percentage that did not get that effect. Now, what happens is that several laser studies report higher significance levels. So they say 0.001%. You look at the numbers, and what you see, for example, for ablative records, the adverse effects is 9.7. It's impossible to get a 0.001 significance when you have adverse effects and 9.7%. And the non-ablative lasers have a 12.2%. And again, it's impossible, so there's no statistical significance. So I don't know how they're getting the 0.001% that they are quoting. So there is some efficiency of lasers on wood, keloids, and hypertrophic scars. And again, they reported 0.01, that's 99% of the people got the results. But when you look at the numbers, the clear reduction of their lesions was only 36%. So that's 0.64. so that's not significant. They had a slight reduction, 45%, and about 4% showed no change. That's 18%. That's impossible to have 001. So I don't know what they're getting the significance. And this is something that you need to look at when you read an article, so you know whether this technology is actually effective or not. There is other studies that I went through, and again, the same problem. The problem with keloid scars and laser efficiency is that, yes, they do have good results. However, the keloid might come back, it might return. And it's about 35% of them that might come back. So there is a laser safety that's at 84.9%. This is another issue with laser RF, that all the studies are not longitudinal. So they don't know what's going to happen 10, 15 years from now. And it doesn't matter, because if something happens to the patient 10 or 15 years from now, they say, well, it's a coincidence. So you see, you have to look, we need more longitudinal studies before we determine the efficiency of any device. So again, safety is about 84.9%. That is non-significant. So there are also side effects that have been underreported, and that's hyperpigmentation, some scars, and hypopigmentation. That's the vertigo that we call it, that the skin gets white. There is another danger of repeated trauma when people keep doing laser treatments. Their granzyme B causes apoptosis and inflammation, and that's enhanced with repeated trauma. Again, with the body treatments, this is the marketing, and that's the reality. So this lady probably thought that she's gonna get a body all the way to the right, to the left, I'm sorry. But what she got was just a slight reduction. That's not what she imagined in her head. That was not her hope. So we looked at cognitive dissonance. And that is when you pay a lot of money about something, then you start changing your perception, and you say, well, you know, it must have been good, because I'm not stupid to go and pay all this money to my doctor. I must have good results. And that's called cognitive dissonance. And we did a study that I published, actually 2 studies have been published on similar subjects. And we looked at the lie scale and hysteria and depression scale of the MMPI. The lie scale was all the way high. That was with the sexual satisfaction questionnaire, the SFSI. And basically, these people said, I'm very satisfied, but the depression remained, and the lie scale was high, so they were lying. Basically, they were happy to make their partner happy, but they did not basically look at their own needs. So the cryolysis has had a lot of problems. There are satisfied people, 19%. I don't know what that is, if it's cognitive dissonance or true satisfaction. There is about 32% satisfied, 30.6% neutral, unsatisfied, very unsatisfied. The problem is that none of these results is significant. So the main problem with laser and RF is that they cannot suppress hunger. So what they say to you, the results are going to be permanent as long as you don't eat and you don't put on weight. Because if you put on weight, then it's going to go in another side of the body. And this is an example that we did actually with a different technology. All the weight had gone on her back, and it was atrocious. And in one treatment, it was like an effortless exercise technology that we used. So why laser and RF cannot control hunger? Why? Because people that eat a lot, okay, or they are overweight, they have a different hippocampal subnetwork. So there's dysregulated in the brain, in the hippocampus. So that is a problem. They cannot control their hunger. The other problem is the leptin. The leptin is a very strange thing. It has to be within the normal range. If it's too low, then you have hypoleptonemia, you're excessively hungry. And if it's too high, then you have hyperleptinemia. Again, you have a lot of leptin in the system, but no signal. So the leptin cannot communicate, so it's useless, it just sits there. Same thing with insulin. You know the story with insulin, with diabetes. Not enough insulin, you have hypoinsulinemia. You have too much, you have hyperinsulinemia, that's the insulin resistance. And insulin, leptin, hyperleptinemia, and insulin resistance go hand in hand. So again, insulin has to be within the normal range or you're out of luck. So all of these things you need to look at and understand. So the problem with lasers, there is no short-term
Please, 1 minute
RF.
left. 1 minute left.
Okay, there is no short-term or long-term RF studies on visceral fat reduction. And of course, the visceral fat is inflammation for many reasons. I don't have time to go over it. And there is a paradoxical adipose hypertrophy that comes after cryolysis. Now, radio frequencies is connected to inflammation. And several research studies have connected inflammation with aging. We call it inflammaging. Inflammation leads to impaired immune surveillance, which accelerates accumulation of senescent cells. And radiofrequency denatured protein, what does that mean? When a protein is denatured, it's unfolded. An unfolded protein is useless. So it's like a fried egg. That's what is, when you fry the egg, the proteins are getting. So the problem with the anti-aging concept is we're looking at it as an evaporating glass, that we don't have enough of something, we have to replenish it. In fact, it's the communication. And you have that with stem cell therapies. They have benefits, but they have dangers that are reported scientifically, but most people don't know about it. You have the mesenchymal stem cells that cannot differentiate as the person ages, and therefore it creates uncontrolled cellular proliferation and tumors. And you have the genome editing, which is actually illegal, because it can only be done with certain disorders. You have the gene expression. Now it's a new trend of gene expression. And you have genes, but I need to finish.
Yeah, it's time. 12 minutes 0.
Okay,
Yeah.
Can I just finish?
Yeah, you can conclude, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so basically gene expression is not always a good thing, and there is a danger, for example, with longa telomerase, because that can create cancer. And there is a lot of a lot of these studies basically do not look. The ecosystem is changing and is going towards health, and you will lose a lot of patients because at the back of their minds, after the pandemic, they are looking at better immunity and health and immunity is a secret to age delay. And you can be a pioneer and do that. Health is beauty, but beauty is not health. And with this, I will finally conclude my lecture. Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Jane Yu from New York City. And Dr. Jane is going